All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. I see we
Hello.
have the members, the member gang. Mars is here. Babylon Project, which is Vince right here. But go check out oh, see Vince
Oh, that's right.
At the beginning, check Vince's YouTube channel, the Babylon Project. They have amazing guests there. Go check it out. Link in the description. Also, the book that we're reviewing by today by Ben Shapiro. The link to that book also is in the description, and the link in the description to Ben Shapiro's book is our affiliate link. So if you buy it from there, it helps us. Justin is here. Justin is a member. Thank you. P is here also. P is also a member. Thank you for being a member. Soha's here. Soha's an admin. Thank you for admitting. And people on Twitch are here. Yeah, guys, if you're watching us on YouTube and you have a Twitch account, link to our Twitch in the description. I do sometimes live streams on Twitch that I don't do over here, so check that out. Anyways, by the way, so Vince read this book. I'm gonna play this video. Let Ben explain what this book is about first himself before you tell us what it's about. But tell us first, after you read it, Vince, how do you rate this book out of 5?
Okay, so on Goodreads, so if you follow me on Goodreads, you'll notice that I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But that's
Okay.
mainly because you can't do halves. It has to be in whole numbers. If you follow me on Instagram at Babylon Project YT, then you'll notice I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5. So I thought it was fine.
2.5 out of 5?
Yeah, which is like
Eh.
okay, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
That's my metric.
Well, I thought 2.5 doesn't seem fine. Okay. Ethan is here also. Ethan is our member. Thank you, Ethan, for being a member. And Soha's reminding everybody to like and subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitch and Instagram and follow our Discord server and join our Discord server. Link in the description. Thank you, Soha, for reminding everybody. Yes, the P is also telling everybody to follow us on Twitch. Anyways, let's say what Ben has to say about his own book. Wait, I can hear myself. Vince, reduce your volume.
Today, I'm revealing the title and cover of my brand new book, How to Destroy America in 3 Easy Steps. It is available for pre-sale at dailywire.com/Ben. That's dailywire.com/Ben. Here's what's important about the book. The country is falling apart. We all know this. I mean, the country was falling apart months ago, before coronavirus. The coronavirus pandemic has really exacerbated a lot of the divisions that undergirded what was happening before. What we are watching right now is at least half the country really does not see America as a cohesive unit. It doesn't see America as an idea. It doesn't see America as a nation. Instead, America is a set of competing interests. America is just a bunch of groups that hate each other, and whoever grasps the brass ring of power is able to cram down their viewpoint on everybody else. Why exactly is the country falling apart? I think the country is falling apart because there are a lot of people who want to fundamentally change the country, and then there are some people who see that America was meant to be unified, that America is based on a shared philosophy. It's based on a shared culture. It's based on a shared history. And that's really what the book is about. You can see in the Democratic primaries how much of the Democratic Party does not believe that we have a shared philosophy, does not believe we have a shared culture, believes that America's history is actually a history of innate evil and horror. And how many Democrats today are trying to use the pandemic to, quote unquote, remake America? Bernie Sanders had a whole piece in the New York Times where he was talking about how we need to fundamentally reshape the free markets and capitalism in America as a whole. You see this sort of stuff from Nancy Pelosi wanting to reshape America on the back of a pandemic. Hillary Clinton says, let no good crisis go to waste. The fact that people want to fundamentally remake America, that has really become the dominant ideology of the political left. And more than anything else, it's not just the left-right division. It's a question of whether we stay together as a country. There's a traditional, what I call unionist history to the United States, a traditional unionist philosophy, a traditional unionist culture. And that is an idea that America does have these shared things, this shared philosophy. And that philosophy can be summed up in the Declaration of Independence, the idea of pre-existing rights, rights that pre-exist government, God-given, that are to be protected by a government that is designed also not to invade those rights with delegated powers, that is answerable to the people, right? These are the traditional philosophies of the United States. The philosophy that limited government ought to be combined with powerful social institutions, right? So institutions that inculcate duty and virtue. This was the traditional American idea. And then there's a group of people that I call the disintegrationists. And the disintegrationists make the case there is no shared philosophy, that actually America is just a brutal, vicious, terrible place. And really, rights don't exist. They're just privileges from the government, that the rights, things like the right to free speech or the right to a free press or the right to assembly, these are actually just evil ideas that are really designed to reinforce power hierarchies. The power of free speech, the right to free speech is bad because it allows people like you or me to talk. If the right to free speech were good, it would actually bar people that are not on the left from talking. Right? We'd have hate speech regulations. You see this with regard to the belief that America's limited government is insufficient, that we need to overthrow the boundaries of the Constitution. People on the left are constantly attempting to overthrow the bounds of the Constitution in order to maximize the power of government. We don't have a shared philosophy. That philosophy was originally constituted by rich white men in order to re-enshrine their own interests. So without that philosophy, we fall apart, because then government is just a power tool to be used against whoever you don't like. And then there's the question of a shared culture. Yeah, I mean, we all watch the same movies, we all watch the same TV shows. What I really mean is that there used to be an idea in America that we had a culture of rights. Virtually all of our arguments were based in this idea of rights. The right to free speech, the right to express your opinion.
All right, I need to pause a little bit here because I can't take too much. Like, we could continue, but this is the book, by the way. Hold on. But based on what I just heard, I think I hate it. I think I hate. I think I hate
Really?
this. I think I hate this book so much.
Wow.
I think I'm not sure. But I'm just, this is based on 3 minutes of what he says is about. So I'm not. It's not a very. It's not. I'm not certain about my position, but I think it's a bunch of nonsense.
Right.
But okay, you tell me why you gave it. I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know. Do you want me to tell you my first thoughts on this, or you read the whole book, so maybe you give me your thoughts first.
Right,
I'll play the rest of it later.
Okay. So what you've played so far, I would be on board with you if that's all I knew about the book. The rest of the book, though, doesn't just simply focus on the idea, as he mentions in the video, the unionist versus the disintegrationist, but he also attacks, and this is the part that I like, he attacks the far left view of history whether we're talking about the 1619 Project or whether we're talking about Howard Zinn. He criticizes them, and I think he provides a compelling enough case. Yeah.
Criticizes who?
The 1619 Project, which was
yeah,
and Howard Zinn, who published The People's History of the United States, which is effectively a revisionist version of history in which you view it through the lens of minority groups. And I like those aspects of the book, but I think he completely misses the mark on, one, why we're in so much trouble right now, and two, his remedy for the situation. It's funny because
are we in so much trouble? Like, it seems like everybody is exaggerating the problem a bit.
In trouble in regards to critical race theory, which is what we discussed last time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem, and it's a great problem against our values. But I mean, the United States has gone through Civil War, World War II, the Great Depression.
Yeah, sure. Just because we're not in as big of trouble as we were in the past doesn't mean we're still not in big trouble.
I'm not saying we're not in problem, but it's not as bad as, like, the country is falling apart. Is it falling apart? Like, it's not falling apart. Is there some setbacks that needs to be fought back against? But he's like saying, "Oh, everything, the sky is falling, the country." Like, I mean, come on.
And I think
like,
the reason
have you looked at the rest of the planet? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't think it's falling apart. I think it's in trouble. I don't think it's falling apart. But the reason why he thinks, the reason why he thinks it's falling apart is for something that we actually talked about this in the previous video, where you and I were talking about how it's funny that people like Shapiro agree with us on how crazy the woke and critical studies issues is. But the reason why he thinks it's bad is different from the reasons why we think it's bad. So from his perspective, he sees this as the downfall of conservative cultural Christian values, Judeo-Christian values in the United States. And because of that, he thinks it is falling apart because his precious religion is falling apart. So even though we both recognize this as a problem, we recognize it as a problem for completely different reasons. And those reasons is why he thinks that the situation is so much worse than what we think it is.
Yeah, but you were about to go say something very profound where I rudely interrupted you. Do you remember what you were going to say? I'll try to shut up. Go on.
Let's see. Before you interrupted me, I was saying, remind people in the comments, remind me, because I have a terrible memory. I was mentioning how the reason he thinks it's a problem is different from what we think is a problem. I don't think it's burning down, but the reason why he thinks it's burning down is because
no, you were saying you're talking about the parts of the book that you agreed with, and then you were going on.
Yeah. So I like the parts when he criticizes things that a far left revisionist would say things. So he criticizes the idea that the far left views history in regards to the power structures, oppressor versus oppressed. I like those ideas, but again, the reason why he's criticizing it is different than the reason why we would criticize it. He's criticizing it, and we'll go deeper later on in the video about this, is because he views the United States founded on 3 philosophical pillars. And viewing the United States in the idea of oppressor versus oppressed goes against the philosophy of the United States. I'm not particularly interested in whether or not we have a solid philosophy that we can all agree on necessarily. I'm more interested in whether or not what's factual. Yes.
Right.
Go ahead.
Don't forget what. Am I interrupting you? I don't want to, because you're saying good things, and I don't want you to forget. Okay.
Right. Okay, so I'll finish off then.
Maybe bring in like a notepad like me next time. But go on.
Okay. Yeah. So his would be on the idea that the founding fathers, they had a specific philosophy in mind, and the Constitution was informed by the founding fathers' philosophy, as was the Declaration of Independence. And it is these founding pillars that he has to make sure that history is in accordance with. So instead of saying something like the founding fathers were hypocrites because they claimed that all men are created equal and yet slavery was still instituted, he would make the argument that, well, that's not a contradiction. That's just because the founding fathers had to either negotiate or reach a compromise for the sake of the Union, which I think there's truth to that. But also because the United States, even though it had a unified philosophy, it didn't always live up to what its philosophy was. So that is his view of history, and that's the way that he would argue about it. And that would be the second part of his book, whereas the first part is more of the cultural aspect. The second part is more of the historical and economical aspect.
So here's the difference between what you said and what he seems to be saying, at least in the video. You keep mentioning the far left and what he criticizes the far left about, right? And I'm assuming you're talking, when you say far left, you're talking about the Wokistani people, right?
Right.
But he doesn't refer to them as the far left. He refers to them. He multiple times said in that video, the left,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
This is something that right-wing people complain about every time you use alt-right and right-wing interchangeably, right? But here's the thing, like, I think Ben Shapiro doesn't have a problem with just the far left or the Wokistani people. He has a problem with the entire left, right? And what he does is that he uses these Wokistani people to paint a broad brush and generalize the entire left and the entire Democratic Party as if they all are for demolishing all these institutions, which they're not. And Mars is actually saying the difference is values between Ben and traditional libs. Yeah, see, Ben has a problem with the traditional libs, not these new woke people, but he wants to make it seem, just like the woke people want to make their enemy bigger than it is. Like, there's a lot of racism out there, but they want the woke people want to make the racism even bigger so that they have a bigger enemy to fight, so that it seems like racism is just everywhere. Ben is doing exactly what the woke people do, right?
Yeah.
So he wants to be like, yeah, they're all woke. This is the Democrats. This is the left. The left is destroying the country. The left wants to tear down this institution. The left is against the Enlightenment values. The left is against, like free speech. Like, no, they're not. It's the wokey people. It's not the left. But yeah. What do you think?
No, I agree. This is something that he's constantly doing. And this is probably my main problem with the book, actually. It's not even the fact that he's trying to argue for traditional values, specifically religious values. It's the framework problem that he has. So as he mentioned in the video, he attaches this idea of unionists versus disintegrationists. And he lumps so many people under this umbrella of disintegrationists, I can't even say that properly, that it doesn't really make it seem as cohesive as possible. So you could literally just say anything, like anybody who disagrees with him is a disintegrationist. That's pretty much what this is. And so whereas a book, like a separate book, right? Like a book like from Jonah Goldberg, whereas he would be very specific and precise in his language about who he's talking about. He's not talking about people on the left. In fact, he's a lot more generous than Ben Shapiro is on that front, because he's
Who?
Jonah Goldberg. So he's also a conservative commentator, but I like him because he calls out bullshit on the right as well. Like he calls out Ben Shapiro when Ben Shapiro pretends that he's all for civil speech and public discourse, and yet he's selling merch that says leftist tears on his website. And so what he does, and I'll finish off here, is that instead of being very precise in what he means exactly by disintegrationists and what they want, he just lumps a bunch of people under that umbrella. So he puts Bernie Sanders there. He puts Nancy Pelosi there, as he said in the video. He puts Howard Zinn there. He puts the people who wrote the 1619 Project in there. I forget her name. He just lumps in a bunch of different people who have different views and different philosophies. And really, at the end of the day, it's like, were these just people that you disagree with?
Yeah.
Because aside from that, you're not very precise in who it is you are attacking. And that would be my main critique of the book.
Well, Justin is saying that he also makes a distinction between left and far left and liberal. And Mars is saying that maybe he does, but he doesn't know if his audience realizes that. But in the video that we watched, it doesn't seem like he did.
He doesn't in the book either.
In the book, he doesn't?
No. He doesn't distinguish that.
So he seemed like he did it in like Joe Rogan show. But okay, so yeah, see, to his audience, he does it. To his audience, they're making the enemy the bigger than you can't have a small enemy. You have to have a giant enemy for you to become like, this is, and again, to be fair, this is something we see on the atheist activist community as well, right? Like this is not unique to every activist group has to deal with this problem, right? For example, in atheist activism, we sometimes see people exaggerate the role of religion in a problem, right? And sometimes deny everything else, the role of everything else. Like the correct version is like, okay, religion is, poisoning the situation and it's making it more difficult. But would everything be solved if we remove religion? No, there will still be problems. It would just be less problems, but there will still be problems, right? And sometimes when religious people do things, horrible things, for a lot of atheist activists, they don't even try to wait and see like, oh wait, let's see if the religion had a role in here. No, it was a religious person, something bad happened, it must have been because of the religion. Because if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So we have to be careful not to exaggerate the role of religion in certain things. And these, other activists, political activists, have to be more careful about that as well. Like if you are fighting against racism, be careful not to see racism where racism doesn't exist. If you're fighting against the woke dogma, do not associate everybody that is on the left with being wokey. Like you have to be careful with these things, right? That's what I think.
Right. Yeah, I want to address two comments. So Justin Bakula says he listens to Ben Shapiro's show. He hasn't read the book, but he listens to Shapiro's show. And that's probably why he probably knows more about what Ben Shapiro talks about there. But strictly from a book perspective, in regards to what the book is telling us, that's coming from the book. So even if he doesn't believe that, he's writing it down in the book itself. And people who read the book and don't know about Ben Shapiro's other work, they leave the book thinking that. And then Ethan says his argument is that the Wokistani people are taking over the political left and coming to prominence in the leadership of the Democratic Party. Right. Yeah, so again, that is definitely something that he said on the Ben Shapiro show, but he's not very precise in his actual book and what he's talking about. And I think he says towards the end of the book that he wrote this book like pretty quickly, whereas some of his other books he takes months upon months to write down. This one he just like wrote it all down. So yeah, and Susanna's here. How you doing, Susanna?
Oh, hey, Susanna, yay! Ethan is saying his argument is that Wokistani people are taking over the political left and coming to prominence in leadership of the Democratic Party. See, if when he says that, he's right. They're becoming more and more influential. But that's not what he said, at least in this video. And Vince is saying he like if he was saying it like Ethan just did, that would be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. but he was just saying the left. Oh, the left are against free speech. Like he was just using the word the left as if he was talking about, which would have been more accurate if we were just being more specific about which part of the, you're talking about the Wokistani people, right? Like he was just generalizing the entire left, at least in that video. And you're saying he did that in the book as well. So maybe maybe other places he's more precise about it, but he wasn't here, right? So, wait, Susanna, yes. Okay, Susanna is... Okay, look at Mars simping for Susanna.
Oh
Jesus
my
Christ.
God.
Oh, it's
Mars,
so
don't
disgusting.
join the simp army.
What the hell, Mars? That is so cringe. Look at this. Look at the simping level here going on. All right. All right, so let me actually play the rest of the video.
Okay.
The right to worship as you saw fit and act as you saw fit without anybody else impinging on those rights. Now, this is not a law issue, right? That would go under sort of the philosophy categorization. This is an issue of the culture, and that is we are completely intolerant of other people's right to free speech at this point. We try to create boycotts. Social media mobbing has become the order of the day. The attempt to destroy people who disagree with us, not just debunk their arguments, but destroy them as human beings, come after them, go after their sources of livelihood.
Oh, wait, I didn't share my screen. Why are you guys not saying anything?
To completely rewrite science in the name of things like sensitivity and feelings. Right? All of this goes under the destruction of a common culture. Without that common culture, we're not even speaking the same language to each other. We're not even capable of communicating properly with one another if we don't share that culture. And then finally, there's the question of American history. The traditional unionist version of American history is very simple. America has had horrible periods in American history, but America's founding ideals were great and good. And the story of American history is an attempt to perfect those ideals and to strengthen those ideals in the face of countervailing disintegrationist forces that see America as a series of interests to be torn apart at will, that see America basically as just a question of power dynamics. Now, this is the sort of Howard Zinn version of American history. The founders were evil, rich, white slaveholders who attempted to enshrine their own interests, that America is rooted in slavery. This is the 1619 Project from the New York Times. And then there's the traditional unionist history that says we're all part of the same team. And we weren't always part of the same team because America's ideals were not properly construed and properly enacted. But that doesn't mean the ideals were wrong in the first place. America's story is a story of progress, of an upward trajectory in terms of how we have realized our own visions of universal human value. The disintegrationists, by contrast, say that America's history is really just quite evil and bad across the board from foreign policy to domestic policy. And that means that we have nothing to share, right? If we don't share philosophy, if we don't share culture, if we don't share history, it's very easy to divide the country. And the purpose of all that division is so that we can rebuild something different in the ruins. Now, here's the dirty little secret. Nothing different will be rebuilt in the ruins. Nothing. Instead, what will happen is we'll all go our separate ways. The groups will separate. We'll revert to tribalism. And that's what we're seeing right now. When everybody is busy talking about Trump, the real question is not about Trump. It's between a group of people who believe America was never great and a group of people who believe that America was always great, even if we didn't always fulfill our potential. Right? That is the real battle that is happening right now. We need to restore what it was that made America great in the first place. What are the ideas? What was the culture? We need to restore our vision of American history. That's the way we're going to restore the country. So my book is about America. It's about our economy. It's about our values. It's about our churches. It's about our Constitution, about our Declaration, and about the people who are trying to get rid of all of those things in favor of building a new utopia. My new book, How to Destroy America in 3 Easy Steps. Can't wait for you to read it. Go check it out in pre-sale right now at dailywire.com/Ben. That's dailywire.com/Ben.
All right, so 2 things that he repeated here that I want to address. Oh, but before I actually address those 2 things, let me highlight some comments. Where did that go? There was one by P2020 on Twitch. Oh, here's it. So in short, is it fair to say that Shapiro's Shapiro's playing Otherism with disintegrationism, where besides all that bothers him, it's also includes the ones treated with the vaguest term possible to leave room for more boogeymen to be added in? I guess, yeah. I mean, depends. Again, it seems like he does that in some places. Based on what you guys in the left chat have been saying, he's more precise and less vague about it in some platforms. But maybe he does that when he's talking to his own audience, right? I don't know. yeah, so maybe he's clever about it. Like when he goes on Joe Rogan and he could see more opposition, he's a little bit more clear about it. Justin is saying even the Women's March went far left, feminist, crazy town. Yeah, well, the Women's March doesn't really represent feminism, though, in my opinion. I'm not sure.
I mean, when you think of feminism, that's what gets publicized. So even though most people may not, like, who call themselves feminists may not associate themselves with the crazy ideas of Ilhan Omar, that is what is getting publicized.
Well, when you think about right wing, what's getting publicized is racism. So right. So when a lot of people, when you think right wing, they think, oh yeah, a bunch of climate change denying, racist, homophobe, transphobic, fascist. That's what a lot of people think when they think right wing. Do you think that's fair? No.
Oh,
right.
No, and also the representation of feminism with the Women's March, I don't think is fair, and so that leads into a huge problem that we have to deal with.
Right. P is saying, P is simping as well. Wow, Jesus Christ! Look at all the simping going on.
Susanna just skyrocketed past me in followers.
What?
Susanna skyrocketed past me in followers on Twitter. I'm really angry.
Yeah, this is simp power. It's a simp army. Maybe you should. Yeah. Never mind. That's not a good. I had a suggestion, but I'll tell you. No. Man watching Shapiro is like YouTube twice the speed. No, it's not. Yeah, but okay. Isn't Trump feeling the woke's insanity? Yes, he is. I can't wait until he's gone. Hopefully, he's gone. Where is this? Oh my God! It's jump. Oh, here. Justin saying he's a fast talker. You guys are not used to listening to things at double speed. This would be no issue for you if you listen to things at double speed. Linda Sarsour was there. These kind of hats. I don't know if I can read this. Yeah. We're not saying it's not a big problem, but just because something is a big problem, you don't have to make it even bigger than it is, right? So two things that he also repeated in that video, and I don't know how reflective this is of the book, is he keeps saying America is meant to be united, and we need to have like a common culture or to be united on. So that's one concept, right? And then he's also against the people who want to reshape United States and the society and culture and everything. The first one, first of all, are they meant to be united? Is that a good thing? I don't know. Like, isn't the diversity of opinion something that right-wing people always talk about? Like, hey, diversity. Oh, the left-wing people, they want diversity in biology, but they don't want the diversity in the one thing that actually matters, the diversity of ideas. So isn't like unified, and what he means by a unified culture, when he said a unified culture, I kind of thought like, this is the Judeo-Christian values. He's not going to say it, but that's what he means. But he said it. He said, God-given rights. That's the philosophy, shared philosophy of Americans. Really, that's what you want, the shared philosophy and culture? I mean, he basically threw a whole bunch of atheists under the bus right there. Judeo-Christian values to be the shared culture of the United States, and that's what's going to make America great. Isn't one reason America is better than other countries is that competing ideas and competing values and competing cultures and cultures living side by side with each other? Why do you know which country has a unified culture right now? China, right? Is that what you want? You want unified culture? You know how you can have unified culture? You can only have unified culture when you have an authoritarian regime that keeps people in check. That's you have a unified culture. Why would you want a unified culture? Okay, you want, these people understand that better culture, better ideas, and better products survive in the free market, right? So, but the same applies with cultures and values in a competitive environment where there is no unity, where everybody is fighting each other for the ideas that are for their ideas, that constantly trying to destroy other people's ideas with their superior ideas. And that in that they keep saying the free market of, they keep saying the free market of ideas. How could you have a free market of ideas if you have a unified philosophy and unified culture, right? That sounds like a monopoly of ideas rather than a free market of ideas, especially given that his view of a unified culture means the Judeo-Christian value. Yeah, like that doesn't sound nice at all, especially to us atheists, right? What do you think?
I think you can argue for the marketplace of ideas while still trying to gear society towards a particular set of values. So you and me, for instance, we would be totally in favor of the marketplace of ideas, of viewpoint diversity. However, at the same time, we would also be concerned if an increasing number of people started yelling out anti-Semitic stuff, and we'd try to make the argument against that sort of thing, and we would prefer them not to believe that, right? I think
Right.
that's more of where he's coming from.
Yeah, but okay, we would prefer that, but when it comes to some other ideas, like we would prefer a diversity. Like when it comes to less extreme ideas, when we're not sure 100% which one works better. Even okay, so when it comes to some ideas, yes, we would allow them, but we would like them to be crushed and destroyed, even though we allow them, right? But when it comes to less problematic ideas than the one you mentioned, we actually would prefer a diversity in those ideas, and them competing with each other, I think. You know what I mean?
In his view, though, these ideas are just as cataclysmic as us, as the example that I gave. So even though you and I obviously aren't concerned about the drop in religiosity, he thinks that the drop in religiosity is going to lead to this disintegrationist culture that is ruining the United States. So he's very cataclysmic about these sort of things. Should we go over, by the way, what he means by the United States philosophy? Because he revolves around 3 tenets. Should we describe them?
Yeah. Okay. Remember that. I'm going to read some of our member comments, especially Justin is saying, by unified, I think he is lamenting that there is a huge difference between camp thinking America. Oh, the camp thinking America is about freedom and prosperity versus another saying it's corrupt and systematically racist. Yeah, okay. He's saying, see, this is how the trick works, right? He's like, this is like the boogeyman tactic, okay? Like, look at all these people. First of all, he's making them bigger than they are. Look at all these people who do not like freedom, who do not like free markets, who do not like free speech. Oh my God, like these, so they're gonna destroy America. This is why we need a unified culture instead of ideas. Oh, really? Okay, what's the unified idea instead of cultures? Judeo-Christian values, like, so yeah, no. Okay, so it's like, it's basically what people do with I mean, all the scare tactics, both sides use scare tactics. They point to something legitimate problems to sell their solutions, right? To sell their crappy solutions. But just because there are some people with really crappy ideas, that doesn't mean that, okay, let's come up with one set of ideas that everybody has to adhere to. All the culture should be surrounded that set of values and ideas, because we have some examples that of really crappy ideas if you step out of that, right? I mean, this is what fascists always do at the same time, right? Like fascists always, before they become fascists and they take control of everything, they point to legitimate bad ideas as reasons for why they need to control everything, and they need some unity on their form of their vision, right? And yeah, one thing else I wanted to mention is when it comes to he keeps saying like, oh, they want to reshape America, as if he says that as if that's a bad thing. Hasn't America been reshaped like 50 goddamn times in its short history? And isn't the whole idea of reshaping why it keeps on getting better and better? I mean, what you're afraid of, like what you say he's afraid of, which is losing religion and Judeo-Christian values. Yeah, that's the reshaping of America that I would love to see. If that's the boogeyman that he has, like, oh my God, they're reshaping America. Oh, if that involves less reliance on Judeo-Christian values, yeah, go ahead and reshape America. Why is like, how is hasn't United States, like, what do you think? Hasn't United States already been through a whole bunch of reshaping, and he makes it seem like that's the whole idea of reshaping is something to fear, because it's gonna people don't value everything that made United States great. But the capacity for United States to constantly reshape itself is one of the reasons why it became great. What do you think?
Yeah, this is why it's so frustrating to address this book, because he's not precise on what he's talking about. So whereas he would say that, no, we didn't necessarily reshape anything, we didn't undergo a huge social revolution, it's just that we were never properly adhering to the values that were instituted in us by the Constitution or by the founding fathers. We just weren't living up to the values. And so for the longest time, I think I was like almost done with chapter 2, and I was still confused. I'm like, what are you talking about by reshaping human culture? Because I was thinking the same things that you were thinking. And then he sort of just put in a quote from Steven Pinker at the very end. And then I'm like, wait a minute, are you arguing? Are you saying that the other people are trying to do their best to argue towards blank slatism and you're arguing against it? And then that's when it sort of clicked in me. I'm like, oh, this is what you're talking about. He's specifically talking about the idea that people think that everything in the way that we interact with people is due to socialization. And he is awful at trying to explain this because, as I said, it took me 2 chapters to really realize what he was talking about. He says that that we are ingrained with a particular human nature, that you cannot change this human nature. It is not malleable. And then you have a bunch of sociologists and people in the humanities department that think that everything is due to socialization, and they're trying to change human nature. And he even addresses like eugenics and stuff like that. Oof. So that's what he's specifically talking about. And again, judging by that video that we just watched, I honestly, like, that video was terrible PR, because it's just filled with a bunch of like keywords that a bunch of right-wingers would love. But then when they read the book, he's not really talking about that exactly. And this is why, like, the book is just filled with a bunch of stuff like this, where it takes a while for you to really understand like what your point is, right? So you're reading the book, and then after a while, you're just like, what exactly is your point? There's a point. There's a part in the book where he's like ranting about the destruction of family values and the destruction of the nuclear family in particular, and he doesn't explain why that's a bad thing. So you're reading it for the longest time, like, why exactly is this a bad thing? And then it's not until 4 chapters later where he explains why that's a bad thing, almost as if it was a foregone conclusion that the destruction of the nuclear family was an obviously bad thing. Yeah.
He's just writing to his base, I think. That's why, like, they already assume that's a bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mars is saying that's the thing about the states, though. There is no unified culture per se, but a very few select values that all have to share for everyone to pursue their own pleasure. Liberalism, not science values. Yeah, actually, has there ever been in the history of the United States a time where it seems like the entire country was united around shared values? Has there been? Because it seemed like the constant. It was a constant. It's a constant story of struggle between different ideas, wasn't it? Like, and
literally about to say those exact words.
What?
I was literally about to say those exact words. Constant struggle.
Yeah, constant struggle, and many times way more extreme than what we're experiencing right now. And given that United States has become one of the greatest countries in many aspects, and not in some aspects, but in many aspects on the world, with all of that struggle in the past, without a unified culture, so it seems like that struggle has been helpful. Maybe, right? Like, where is there proof that saying having a unified set of unified philosophy is? I mean, they liked where these right wingers, they, at least the ones that agree with Ben Shapiro, they like United States as a country. They think it's one of the greatest countries in the world, and well, it got here with a history of conflicting philosophies and people constantly trying to compete with each other and their ideas. So maybe don't get rid of that. Maybe you are reshaping America. Maybe you wanting to have a unified philosophy is reshaping America, unlike its past history, for the worse, right? So yeah, give us a time in history when the United States had a shared philosophy, and tell us why that's a good thing. That doesn't seem to be a good thing.
Okay.
You wanted to mention something. You had a list.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what exactly he's talking about, the United States philosophy, because I think this informs just about every aspect of the book. It's centered around three principles, and these are interesting principles. So the first one is the fact that we have natural rights, and it is a reality. The natural rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that they pre-exist government. So government didn't come in and give us these rights. Those rights were already instituted us. They were given to us by
Wait, sorry.
God.
What is this list about? Sorry. What is this list about? This is a
This
list
is yeah. So when he talks about the U.S. philosophy, what
Mhm.
exactly is he talking about when he talks about the United States philosophy that unified all of us? He bases it on three things. So these are the three things. So the first one, then you're taking down notes, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the first one is the reality of natural rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these rights, they pre-exist government. They were given to us by God or by nature's God. They don't come from the collective, right? So even though we can all collectively come together and say that, you know what, this is going to be, we need to institute this policy for the greater good. If it goes against what our natural rights were, then that's a bad thing. And because they cannot be taken away. That's the first one.
Wait, sorry. Why can't they be taken away?
Because they are natural rights that were given to us by God or nature's God.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Should I wait for you to finish all three before I respond to each one of these?
Do you want to respond to this one first? Because I'm assuming you're going to have.
This is absolute horse crap. This is absolute nonsense. First of all, these rights do not exist within the fabric of the universe. These rights have been taken. They've been fought for. Okay, rights are man-made concepts. And they are great man-made concepts. I'm not dissing them by saying that they're man-made concepts. Not everything that is man-made and not natural means, oh, it's not real because it's not natural. It's not real because we made it up. Yeah, we make things up and they become real after we make them up. Okay? Contracts are made up, but they're real and they work and they're helpful. These rights are man-made. They're made up. They didn't exist until we came up with them. They do not exist in nature. They're not given to us by God. We created them for good reason, and they have been working. They work. That's why we keep them. They don't have to be part of the natural law for them to be useful, for them to work, for them to make people's lives better. Okay? This is why, this is one thing that about, okay, so I love the Enlightenment philosophers, right? From the Age of Enlightenment from Western Europe, but this is something that I don't like about them, right? To be fair, they didn't have a choice because they didn't have much data. They kept on arguing that these rights come to us by nature. By nature, everybody has to have these rights, right? No, and the reason is that at that point we didn't actually have the data to show, like, guys, we don't look, these values work, but now we do, right? Now we can see that we have so much data to show that these values and these set of ideas actually makes people's lives better, and they're the most effective way of reducing misery, more than anything else ever invented. Okay, so you don't need to be like, hey, this is by nature, by law, by God or anything like that. You could be like, because of data. Okay, I have data. That's why we need these values and we need these rights. Okay, we have many years of history to back this up. But another reason why I hate this is because it seems so ungrateful to the people that made these rights possible, because these rights were paid for by blood. Okay, and there has been a lot of sacrifices, people's safety, lives, security, freedom has been sacrificed by many people before us, for people to be able to enjoy these lives. And instead of realizing the cost that has been paid, you're like, oh yeah, this is just natural. This is natural order of things. It's within nature. It's just a de facto scenario. Really? Then why does it fall apart as soon as people stop defending it? The natural order of things is absolute chaos. That's the natural order of things, right? This is why these rights need constant. If this was if these rights were natural, then if you let it go, it would just happen, right? The fact that you have to constantly defend it and fight for it means they're not natural. That's why they need defending. That's why they're so fragile. That's why you should, once you get it, you can't just go home and like, oh, we got these rights. No, you have to constantly stand guard so people don't take it away from you, because they're not natural and they need protection.
This is going to lead into an interesting conversation that we're going to have later on, after I finish with these two principles. The second one's pretty simple, on the equality of men before the law. The third one is on the notion that government is instituted only to protect those pre-existing rights and equality of men before the law. So the government is only in there to protect your rights, only to ensure that equality is substantiated when it comes to the judicial system. That's all it is. And all of this can be kind of summed up as natural law philosophy. And this is when he goes to Judeo-Christian values, and he says that natural law philosophy is rooted in two traditions that gradually fused into the belief system of the founders, which is Judeo-Christian morality. So this
Wait,
comes
is
from,
this still number 2?
Oh, we're on number 3. Number 2 is nothing more than just on the equality of men
Wait,
before the law.
No, didn't you just say that number 2 is that the government is meant to do nothing other than protect these pre-existing rights?
That's 3.
Isn't that what you...
2 is on the equality of men before the law.
Okay.
3 is on the notion that government is instituted only to protect those pre-existing rights.
Yeah, but that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how these people... Okay, I'm a libertarian, but a lot of these other libertarians...
Libertarian with a small L. Be precise about that, because otherwise...
Yeah, libertarian with a small L, not the idiot libertarians with the big L, okay? So, with the capital L. But... So it's interesting because the limited government that these people believe in is way more limited than any founders of ideas behind capitalism believed in, and anything that data shows that is useful. Okay, the governments, as somebody that believes in limited government, I can tell you that. I mean, even if you read The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, you can see that the founder of economics, the founder of capitalism, right? The founder of the ideas that these libertarians pretend to believe in, understood that the role of the government goes beyond just protecting people's rights. The role of the government involved adjusting for everything that the market is blind to. So the founders of the ideas that invented capitalism understood the limitations of the market and the fact that the market is especially blind to positive and negative externalities, and that the government needs to adjust for positive and negative externalities because the market doesn't see them. The market only sees the two sides involved in a contract, involved in a trade, the two sides, right? It doesn't see the people that are affected by the trade that are not involved in the trade. And they saw their role for the government to step in and, either tax the trade that, for example, tax or other ways to limit any kind of interaction that has more negative externalities, or be involved in promoting the trades that have involved positive externalities. So that's one thing. Let me see. There's something. If you disagree with me, by the way, or you want me to read it, make sure you tag Atheist.
We really, I mean,
what?
Oh, I thought you were talking to me when you said that. I was going to say, like, well, I mean, we picked a book in which we agree pretty much on everything about this.
Yeah. Oh, this is Mars and Spindy are going at it with each other, so I'm not going to highlight that. But go on. You go.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to, let's see. So I mentioned the whole idea that this falls under the rubric of natural law philosophy, in which you have, in which natural law philosophy basically informed the belief system of the founders. And this is where This is where he links everything back to Athens and Jerusalem, where Jerusalem is the idea of Judeo-Christian morality, and then Athens is the Greek, what the Greeks established as our ability to reason. And this is where he links just about everything back into. So when we're talking about morality, or when we're talking about humanistic values, he doesn't link it back to the Enlightenment or anything that came out of there. Whatever came out of the Enlightenment, the ideas that came from the Enlightenment were directly informed by Judeo-Christian values. This is why he says, and Jordan Peterson agrees with him as well, where even though someone like Sam Harris claims he's an atheist, even though you and I claim we're atheists, we're technically abiding by Judeo-Christian values. And these values inform the entire establishment of the United States, and people are trying to go against these values. I don't mean to give you a headache.
That is so much nonsense. Okay, we already have so many episodes on this. We're gonna have more, but this whole, first of all, it's just not okay. We could do more episodes specifically on this because this could be its own 2-hour video. But for now, let's just say, yeah.
Dude, we're like barely like on chapter 1 technically, like towards the end of it.
Really, we can't go over an hour though. So let's just keep this under an hour. Okay. But I just want to say that we need to. Let's just say for now that is Enlightenment values did not come from Christianity. They were in opposition to Christianity. And yeah, we have a lot of episodes to show why it wasn't Judeo-Christian values that made Western countries great. I mean, I actually had a debate on this exact topic with Sargon of Akkad. He was saying that he was defending Christian values. So you could search for it. Like just recently, I did a live stream with Sargon. I think it was just 2 days ago. So it's on here. Actually, guys, let me show you guys where to find that. And then I'm going to read the super chat that we just got. Hold on. So instead of us going over this, if you look at our Atheist Republic YouTube channel, this is the one. See? Here, let me just mute. So when I click on it. So this is the one. It's called Sargon of Akkad Talks History with Us, right? So you could watch this. I explain why Carl is wrong on this. So yeah, but let's not get into that too much today, right? Because that is going to give me a headache right now. But let's read the super chat. We got a super chat. Thank you so much by Thindorama saying, why should Adam Smith be the uncontested authority? Well, I didn't say it should be uncontested. I wasn't suggesting that. I hope it didn't come across like that. But these people claim the people that they see as what we should go back to, or the literature that their ideas come from, and they give credit to. It seems like what they are saying does not really match where they say we should go back to, or to the ideas that we should go back to. Okay, to the people, because the people that came up with these ideas do not necessarily believe in the limited government that they believe in. That's one. Second of all, the reason why I would argue that limited government should not be as limited as they are saying is not just because Adam Smith said so, but because also data shows, right? Because data shows that government involvement, I'm a libertarian. I want limited government, but not that limited. Okay, and government involvement in some areas have been shown to be helpful. And again, it's overall it's better to be not idealistic about these things. Like, even though I consider myself a libertarian, I try not to decide whether something is a good idea or not based on the category that I have picked to belong into, right? It's better for each government involvement, I think there needs to be a case study. It needs to be like the decision needs to be based on what has it worked for other people, has it not worked, what are the data, what is the statistics, what are the experts are saying. It needs to be a case-by-case analysis rather than, well, I'm a libertarian, so therefore this is government involvement, so yeah, no thank you, right? I think that's some, it's a pragmatic way of looking at it rather than an idealistic way of looking at it, I think, But overall, it seems like even when the government is involved, so there's three ways that the government is involved in things, in my opinion, right? One is when the government does things that the private market cannot or should not do. For example, when it comes to policing or military, that's the role of the government, court system. It would be completely against the interests of the citizens if that was not being done by the private market. Then the second one is the adjusting for externalities. For example, when it comes to pollution, or when it comes to education. Obviously, if it was only in the private market, the education wouldn't be happening as much as it needs to, because only the person that is giving the education and the person that is getting the education is being seen by the market, and only their benefit is being taken account into how much this trade should happen, and the benefit of the third party that is being positively influenced by this is not being taken into account. So it's not going to happen as much as it should. So the government needs to be involved in that. When it comes to pollution, again, only the person that if two people are causing pollution because of the trading each other, the people that are being affected by the pollution, the market is blind to it, and the government needs to be involved in that. The third place the government needs to be involved, can be involved, is when something is the private market would have done because there's a demand for it, but the private market is not capable of doing, because in United States there are less examples of this, but in other countries there are more examples of this, because the private market is not doesn't have the resources it needs to be able to do something, even if there's a demand for it. In those situations, either the government does it itself, like for example building a dam. Let's say there's no private institutions in your country that could build a dam, and the dam is very much needed. The government can step in and just build it. Or in a middle ground is the government partners up with private companies. That would be even better, because usually the problem with governments doing things that the government is not designed to do is that they don't look at managing costs. So partnering with private companies, so it's called public-private partnerships, is a good way for the government to provide the resources that the private market needs, but yet have the private elements in that will make sure that the cost, the efficiency factor is also being managed because of the involvement of the private shareholders. So those are the things, those are the reasons, not just because Adam Smith said so it must be true, our Lord and Savior Adam Smith. No, that's not how I look at things. Hold on, let me just read the whole. Ethan saying, throughout history, when the people's natural rights have been robbed of them, they have fought to get them back. Societies of men are an organic organism as much as other parts of nature. I don't think so. I think these rights that you see today are unique, they're recent, they're geographically and historically very, very fringe. This has not been rights that people in the United States or in Western Europe and many other countries enjoy today. Is as a recent phenomenon. This is, people did not enjoy these rights for most of history, and I think this is not the natural order of things. This is completely unique. Do you agree with that, Vince?
Yep. Just about everything. We really got to pick a book in which you and I are going to have major disagreements over.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's end this soon. Do you want to say anything fast? Oh yeah, actually, Mars is saying something important. Andrew Seidel's book pretty much wipes out Ben Jordan's claim. Yes, I need to read that book.
Oh, it's a great book. Yeah. You haven't read it?
No,
it's great.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read that book. Maybe you should read. I'm gonna read that book, and maybe we could do a video on that as well.
Oh, that'd be fun. How long does it take you to finish a book?
I could do it in a week.
In a week? That one's, I think, pretty long compared to this book. Ben Shapiro's book was like 200 pages, I think.
Okay. Well,
like 300.
But I'm in the middle of another book right now.
What are you reading?
I'm reading the history of Judaism. No, I finished that. I'm reading the. Hold on. Let me read the name. Something about the Quran. Jonathan Brown's book. I know it's the author's name, but I don't know the name of the book. Oh, misquoting. No, what's his name? Jonathan Brown misquoting Muhammad. That's what I'm reading.
Okay.
Chapter 6. All right. So, any finishing thoughts? By the way, guys, if you want to check this book yourself, again, hold on. Let me show you. If you go to the description of the video that you're watching right now, hold on. Let me make sure it's muted. Yeah. If you go into the description, you can see that there's an affiliate link here. If you click on this affiliate link, you wouldn't pay any extra, but Atheist Republic gets a affiliate for the referral. You see this tag here? It says Atheist Republic, then -20. That means that we get something out of you purchasing this book. So yeah, if you want to get it through this link. Anyways, oh, and also guys, make sure you check out Vince's channel, the Babylon Project, link in the description. But anyways, closing remarks.
As you said, because his entire premise rests on such a shaky foundation, such as claiming that natural rights are inherent in human beings and they are granted to us either by God or nature's God, it completely obliterates his whole thesis about this sort of thing, right? It's the same problem I have with Jordan Peterson, where if you're not going to substantiate the existence of God or anything even close to that, I'm not really too concerned about the metaphysical aspects that it could have on our morality. Same thing with this book, not really concerned too much with what any of the claims after the whole natural rights argument is had, because if you're not going to prove first that that these natural rights are indeed natural and that we have to abide by them no matter what, even if the collective good is something that we can, like, from a utilitarian perspective, more good will come out of it if we violate these rights, then I'm not really interested.
Right. Good. Wow, that was a good closing remarks. Other than that, guys, make sure to please like and subscribe. And share this video. If you're watching this on Twitch, follow us on Twitch. And again, I forgot to mention, join if you can, if it's not that difficult for you to give up like $1 a month. Right next to the subscribe button, there's a new join button, and you can become a member. And I'll try what you saw today, that I try to make sure that I highlight, at least read or at least highlight our members' comments. And I recorded a second video for members only. If you're a patron, you're gonna get that anyways, but this is the video. I'm gonna publish it today, which is those videos goes to only our patrons and our YouTube members. So and again, once again, I always have to say this: if you are struggling financially, please don't support us financially. There are free ways to support us. The easiest one is to just hit the like button. That just signals to the YouTube algorithm that our channel needs to grow. Okay, just hit the like button. It costs it's like half a second. It's easy to do, so please just do it. Justin saying thanks. The Babylon Project, which is Vince. That's him. You see, that's the name of the channel. Go check it. Go search for it. Mars saying much thanks for this breakdown, Vince and Armin. Oh, thank you, Mars. All right, guys. Love you guys. No, again, I don't love you if you have not subscribed or if you're not following us on Twitch, okay? I only love you if you have done one of those things, okay? So love those of you who have subscribed. See you again very soon. The next live stream is coming soon. All right, just check the homepage to see when the next one is coming. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.